Hi, my name is Kevin Goode, and we are back again for another piano lesson, or basically an overview of the piano. The last couple of weeks, we've talked about a couple of things. We talked about piano basics. We talked about learning to read music. We've talked about music theory, dynamics, rhythms. We've also talked about scales, and today we're gonna briefly touch on not sight reading. I apologize. We're going to briefly touch on learning how to play music by ear. Okay, so I did another video on learning how to play music by ear a while back, and hopefully you've referenced that video. That's video lesson number 6. Okay, and it's going to go into it in a lot of detail from a different perspective, and I'm going to try to continue that with what we're working on today, and just kind of give you an overview as well. Some more detail, but also an overview. Okay, first off, when you learn a piece by ear, you have 3 different elements that you want to think about. You have the harmony, you have the melody, and you have the rhythm. Okay, so if you're a drummer, the rhythm, you can figure out the rhythm if you're a drummer. I'm not gonna play anything because we'll get dinged by YouTube and Instagram and everything for the music. So I'm not gonna play anything. We're gonna do it all theoretical for the most part. I will play the piano, but for the rhythm, you can basically pick up the rhythm. But since we're learning piano, we're going to talk about the piano. So you have either the melody or you have the harmony. The harmony, remember, 2 or more notes played together at the same time, they're considered chord. It's considered a chord or a harmony. So right there, that is a C chord. So let me come over here so you guys can see that. There we go. That is a C chord. C, E, G. 2 notes, C, E, and then I'm adding the G, which is the 5th, which completes the triad. Triad is 3 notes at the same time, or a chord. So basically, with that, you can figure out the chord or the harmony. That's harder. What we're going to work on today is the melody. And what is a melody? A melody is a sequence of notes. So if I were to come over here and play Mary Had a Little Lamb, okay, that's a sequence of notes. If I were to play some notes on the left hand with that, 2 notes. So I just played those 2 notes in the left hand, C and E. I could also play E and G, C, E, G. So what's happening in the left hand is the harmony, and what's happening in the right hand is the melody. So here's when you're learning to play by ear, there's a couple of things. In music, or in Western musical notation, you have keys. We spoke about keys before. You could learn something like I just played Mary Had a Little Lamb in the key of C, but that's not the only place that I can play it. I could play it in the key of E flat, I could play it in the key of G, and I could play it in the key of D. So let me go to the key of G, and I'm going to play Mary Had a Little Lamb for you, and take a look. That's in the key of G. Now if I go to the key of D, okay, how do I know what's going on there? And also, one other side note, if I were playing the harmony with that, I could play the harmony in the key of G. I could also play it in the key of D. Okay, how am I able to play it in all of those different keys? Okay, so we talked about scales last week. I taught you guys the scale of C and the scale of G. So we'll work with the scale of G. All right, remember I said that there's only 7 notes in the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it continues to just repeat. And then there's also alterations for the notes. You have flats and you have sharps, E flat, G flat, B flat, and you can have F sharp, C sharp, and so forth. All right, so we know the one or the tonic of the tonic or the root or the beginning note of each scale. The beginning note for the scale of C is C. The beginning note for the scale of D is D. This beginning note for the scale of G is G. And so from there, we have what are called intervals. So if I come over here to C and I count up, 1, 2, that's a second, 3, that's a third, 1, 2, 3, that's a third, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then repeat. So C, back to C. So C, C, and that is considered the octave. So if we go back to Mary Had a Little Lamb in the key of C, I'm going to start on the third step, 1, 2, 3, 3, and then go down to the second, to the first, second, third, second, third, and then the fifth. All right. So third, second. So if I were to change keys, the exact same thing is going to happen, only it's going to happen in whatever the new key is. So if I jump over to the key of G, and from last week, we know that in the key of G, there's only one sharp, and that's F sharp. So if I were to play a G scale, oops. Okay, that is a G scale. The seventh is F sharp, and then boom, back to G, the octave. Okay, since we know in the key of C, we're going to start on the third. In the key of G, we are going to start on the third. In the key of C, the third is E. In the key of G, the third is B. And then once again, down to the second, the first or the root, third, second, and then to the fifth. Okay, that is in the key of G. So if you guys were to try it in the key of, let's see, we said G, C, G, and D. D, did we talk about D? We did not talk about D. In the key of D, there are 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Okay, so one of the things, this is why scales are important. I know students are like, oh, I don't want to do scales. In the very beginning, you don't do scales. You basically are learning how to work your keys, your fingers on the keyboard. But once you get to the point of working with scales and learning scales, this is why scales are important. Because if you know the scales for a key, then you can basically transpose any song into any other key. So right now, we just transposed Mary Had a Little Lamb from the key of C to the key of G, and now we're going to do it in the key of D. So here we go. We're going to start on the third degree, or this third scale degree. Go to the second, first, second, third again, second, third, and then fifth. Exact same thing. So what we did in C, it's the same thing that we did in G, and it's the same thing that we did in D. We changed keys, but we still played on the same scale degree of the key that we changed to. So there are various books that you can get. There's one thing that's called the Circle of Fifths. Let me share a circle of fifths that I have. All right, I just pulled this random circle of fifths from the internet, and I am going to share this with you so that way you can see what it looks like. Okay, so the circle of fifths starts at C, then we go to G, then we go to A, and then we go to E, and so forth. How do you think we started at C? How did we get to G? Remember when we were talking about Mary Had a Little Lamb, and we always started on the third, depending on the key that we were in. Okay, the circle of fifths works the exact same way. You're constantly counting up by fifths. So if I come over here, I start on C, and I count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're on the key of G. If we come over here, C has no sharps or flats. And then we're in the key of G. And we have one sharp. And that sharp is on the fifth line. And if you guys remember back to one of our previous lessons, the fifth line in the grand staff on the treble clef is F. So what that sharp means is that every single time you see an F in the piece, it's going to be sharped, unless if there's an accidental that basically makes it natural. Like it's called a natural sign, which means that you won't sharp it, but you're going to play it naturally. But for right now, that's a sharp. Okay. The notes on the outside are what are called the major scales, and the notes on the inside are the minor scales. There's a relative minor scale to every major scale. But we're just sticking with the major today. We're not talking about the minor. Okay, so, and if we're at G, right there, and we count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that takes us to D, or we'll play D right here. And I would have counted that from here, this G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're at D. Okay, so what I did and what we did with Mary Had a Little Lamb is we played it in the key of C, we played it in the key of G, and we played it in the key of D. And we were just going up the circle of fifths. If we would have kept going, the next key would have been the key of A. And once again, that would work the exact same way. If we look over here, A has 3 sharps. It has a C sharp, F sharp, and a G sharp. And so if we come over here, the key of A, that's the third, or that's the first degree, and that's the third. 1, 2, 3. We know that C's are always sharped. And then if we play it, just like we did before, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that is how you figure out how to play by ear. Don't worry about the circle of fifths right now. If you turn on the radio and you like a song and you try to figure it out, if you use your ear, you're going to naturally, if you do it correctly, you're going to naturally fall into whatever key the song is in. It's going to naturally fall into that if you do that correctly. And I know that's, when you're first beginning, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. We all do. I did, and we still make mistakes as we get older, but we just get better. The more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you're going to get better. That's it. Please refer to my previous video on how to learn to play by ear. But what I wanted to show you guys today is just how it relates. Like sometimes you might play something and you might think it sounds a little bit off, or you could have transposed it into a different key. Okay, sometimes the note can actually be wrong, yeah, but other times the note is right, it's just played in a different key, or your ear might have heard it in a different key than the original key. But please refer back to the previous video, and please, I hope to continue along with you on your path to learning to play the piano during this crazy time of COVID. All right, so you guys stay safe and have a great day, and I will see you next time.